Bunny has no chance. Goodbye, Bunny. Sorry. Sorry about that, bud. Oh my god! That was literally like a one-shot! He literally died in like half of a second. Dude, what was that? Apply soak to her. Yeah, this is good timing. This is good timing. Apply soak, throw him out. Goodbye, Tina. Oh my god. That is the fastest I've ever killed her. That... Wow. Hey, what's up guys, it's Nick2, and today I am incredibly excited to show you guys what is by far and away the best build in all of Wonderlands. There's a ton of builds in this game that are capable of incredibly high damage output, many of which can hit for like some absolutely insane numbers, but the problem with a lot of these builds is their practicality and their overall consistency. Having to rely on play the angles, blast chill procs, getting lucky with blast gasp, etc. isn't going to be all that consistent, but what's perfect about this build is that the damage is incredibly consistent. There's very little variance in how much damage you're going to do from boss fight to boss fight, so no matter what, you'll always be able to just roll up to any boss and just absolutely annihilate it in a matter of seconds. Not only that, the damage output is actually stronger than every other build in the game, and it's actually not even close. If you take a look at this drill clip after I initially phase him, you can see how much damage is actually being done here with this build with only 2 pixies out when you can have a total of 3 out. Pretty hard to tell because there's just so many numbers happening, but every individual one of those numbers is about 3 to 4 million damage. If we try to figure out how much damage is actually being done here, each individual pixie is going to shoot 2 projectiles per shot, and each pixie can shoot about 4 to 5 shots per second with my current rate of fire, as you can see in the slowed down 1-second clip. You can have 3 pixies out at any given time, so if we try to figure this out, if we like super low ball it, we can say that 1 pixie shoots, let's just say 3 shots, even though it can go up to 4 to 5. Just say that it's 3 shots, then we multiply that by 2 projectiles per shot, and then we multiply that by 3 pixies total, which is going to be 18 damage instances each second. And then, of course, we just do 18 times 3 million at the lowest, which is what we see represented on drill. So on average, that's about 54 million damage per second, and honestly I still think that that's pretty significantly underestimating how much damage is really being done here, and we can see that this is fairly accurate considering how fast the raid bosses die with this build. Obviously there is no concrete way to prove that this is exactly how much damage is being done here, but hopefully that was at least closely representative to how much damage this is actually doing. What's also like super insane is that my build is far from optimized. I don't really have any primordial gear, but you literally don't need gear at all for this build to work. In this clip, you can see I actually took off my class item and my rings, and I'm still able to kill Parasite in a matter of seconds on Chaos 35 on intense difficulty. As you can see, the build is like actually insanely broken. Hopefully it doesn't get patched soon. We can pray for that. But honestly, there's just no competition. I don't have any words for it. Like you can see, the gameplay is just absolutely ridiculous. If you guys like the video or you find it helpful, please make sure to drop a like, share it with your friends, and subscribe for videos similar to this one. I appreciate it immensely. It helps me out a lot. There will also be some extra gameplay at the end of the video, so feel free to stick around for that. But with all that out of the way, let's get right into the build. Also, if you guys are interested in some fantastically high quality energy drinks and you want to help support me a little bit extra, feel free to check out advanced.gg and use my coupon code NICK2 for 10% off. Alright, so let's just jump right into it. The build is actually fairly simple. I'm going to go over exactly how all of it works. It's very difficult to test because there is a little bit of variance in terms of how much like damage numbers you'll see on the screen because of how many shots per second your gun is hitting and all these other things. So I'm not 100% that my setup is perfect. I'm going to go over exactly how I think everything is going to work, but if you guys happen to test anything and you find more optimal ways to set this up, feel free to let me know in the comments. But you guys should not need anything crazy to be able to make this build work. It should be incredibly strong by default. As you saw in that early clip, I didn't even have gear equipped and I was able to kill the Parasite immediately. So how we're taking advantage of, or exactly what's happening with this build, is we are going to be taking advantage of Double Knot. Double Knot is going to read whenever you score a critical hit with a spell, you're going to deal bonus damage of her gun's element. This is not going to scale off of what gun you have equipped. It's only going to pull the element from what you have equipped, and then it's going to do damage based on your total gun damage. So this is basically going to double dip with all of your extra modifiers, making the Double Knot actually do more damage than the initial hit, which the initial hit is going to be your pixie. So the Double Knot is going to constantly proc every single time that we get a hit, which is why we're playing Stabomancer from the Shadows, because every single hit that our pixie's doing is going to be a guaranteed crit, and then this is going to scale immensely. The reason that we are using the pixie weapons is because these actually deal spell damage. They also scale off of spell damage, and they scale off of companion damage as well. So not only are these the best weapon in the game, and they were already the best weapon in the game, but now they interact with the highest damaging interaction in the game. Pair this with From the Shadows, that's why our damage is so crazy, because it's literally just Double Knot carrying, and the pixies are just more of a vessel to carry Double Knot. You can of course use spells with this if you want, rather than using the pixies themselves. But the spells, the problem is that it doesn't really matter. Like, the initial damage that you do isn't nearly as impactful as just scaling the double knot itself. So getting double knot to hit as many times as possible is ultimately going to be more advantageous than just having a high damaging spell. So that's kind of why we're focusing on the pixies. But you could very easily just pop on 2 spells and run around with that. You would lose from the shadows, or you could just play with 1 spell and use from the shadows still. Really up to you there, but ultimately this is what's going to be the absolute best build. So getting into the build itself, of course, I'll cover absolutely everything in terms of gearing, etc. First off, I want to show my myth rank. So people have been talking about this all the time, saying that it's super high or whatever. I don't really show it because I just forget about it, to be honest. Somehow it's 318. The last time that I actually opened this menu, it was like 170. I don't really know what happened. I'm guessing that when I downloaded my friend's save here, it gave me myth rank points, but I thought that was tied to the profile. I don't really know how that works. I intentionally don't put points into it because I don't want the damage to be, out of control or like higher than what you guys are able to obtain. If there was a way for me to take all these points out, I would, but I don't think that exists right now, or at least it doesn't seem to work, but I don't really know. Sorry about that. But yeah, still only 300, not super high. Doesn't really matter though. If we look at the hero stats here, you want to max out your crit damage, and then you want to put the rest of the points into skill cooldown, and then you could go spell cooldown, or you could go status damage, or you could go max ward HP for some more survivability. The crit damage, obviously, because we're in from the shadows, so we want to be doing as much crit damage as possible. And then we want skill cooldown to lower the cooldown on from the shadows as much as possible, because that's where we're going to do all of our damage. In terms of our skill tree, so what's really important is going all the way down into double knot. And double knot is going to scale off of additional gun damage. So getting things such as 1 slot 1 kill or magic bullets is then going to increase how much damage double knot is doing. We can get some reload speed just to make throwing out the T-Doors faster. Some fire rate is actually going to affect how fast the pixies are going to shoot. We don't need crit chance because we have guaranteed crit when we are in from the shadows. Quantum Man is good for just lowering our cooldowns. Glass Cannon is good for flat extra spell damage, which will then be converted into more gun damage. But also spell damage isn't bad either, because it is going to scale the initial hit that our pixies do, which is still fairly important. If you want more survivability, take off Glass Cannon and put on Mage Armor. Your damage won't be lacking all that much because the build does enough damage as it is. Put on high thread count for the extra spell weaving, obviously. 1 point into Imbued Weapon just so that we can capstone this. If you don't want the capstone and sever the thread, you don't really need it. You could just put more points into Sneak Attack for more crit damage. The reason that I capstone this is because the pixies, for some reason, they're not supposed to count as guns for like literally everything else, but they count as gun crits for Sever the Thread for whatever reason, I think, or it's something else proccing that doesn't make sense to me. Maybe it's double knot. I don't know what's happening. Either way, Sever the Thread is good because you can get your Buffmeister back, and then if you use a Thurge, you can use your spell to then reduce the cooldown of your skill, but also just having more uptime on your Buffmeister is going to be really good anyway, just for general play. But you certainly don't need Sever the Thread. If you wanted more boss damage, I guess you could go Sneak Attack, and that would be slightly better. In the Stabbo tree, we're mainly playing this just for From the Shadows. All the stuff in here isn't really all that impactful. Arsenal's pretty good just for the gun and spell damage. I have Swift Death and Haste. I don't know if Swift Death actually works for this. I haven't really tested it, but there's nothing else worth speccing into. I guess you could get status effect damage, but that's not really all that impactful. Exploit the Weakness is actually fairly good because this is going to be another modifier that we can scale our damage off of, but not hugely significant. And then just a few points into Sneak Attack here. Alright, so for the class item, we actually have a few options here. I've tested all of these, and the damage seems to be fairly similar. There's one that I think that is ultimately better, and that is going to be scaling double knot, because ultimately this is what's doing the majority of our damage. But if you get increased spell weaving stacks with high thread count, or you just increase your gun damage that you're pulling from your spell damage with magic bullets, those are all fantastic options because that extra spell damage is then going to benefit the initial hit of your pixies, and that's going to be really good, and that's also going to benefit your gun damage, so that then double knot will do more damage anyways. Ultimately, the one that I've been using has been this Smart Armor that is double knot and has +2 into 1,000 cuts. The 1,000 cuts isn't hugely impactful here. It can also roll with a Spell Sniper, I believe, but that's not really going to help us. For my roll, I have maximum health, all damage dealt, movement speed. This is not perfect. You could get like all damage dealt, spell damage, or gun damage here. That would be pretty good. Something along those lines would be really strong. You want it to be a Smart Armor, which will give you 50% increased critical hit damage, which is going to be active all the time. A lot of people are like, why don't you use the new Soaked class item? Because you're going to be critting and applying the Soaked effect, and then you do 50% more damage. We don't need to. We just use a Twisted Delusion, and you're going to apply Soaked anyway, so you don't need that class item at all. And the crit damage is going to be better anyway. Like I mentioned, if you get a class item that is going to have spell weaving stacked, that's going to be really good. So anything like this, a Warp Paradigm is not going to be what you're looking for, but you want it to be a smart armor, that would be pretty good. So like this roll right here, or you get one that has magic bullets. I took this from my other flak build. This would be pretty good. The problem is that it isn't spell shot power primary, so it's a little bit worse, but getting the extra +3 into magic bullets is insane. And this roll that I have is actually particularly good, so I'm going to leave all of this in this save file. So feel free to mess around with it, but any of those class items are going to be really good. You literally do not need this. Like I showed in the gameplay, I took my class item off and it's perfectly fine without it. The +3 into double knot isn't like insanely broken, mainly just getting double knot in the first place is what's really good. We kind of already talked about our weapons. We want either a fear knot pixie weapon, or we want a bloodshot. Alternatively, you could get a whatnot, because these are want not. These are also going to scale off of spell damage. They won't do as much damage as the pixies, but they will proc a double knot, which is going to be pretty good. But ultimately, the fear knots or the bloodshots are going to be the best. If you don't get this version of Furior, it is not going to do spell damage and companion damage. In terms of what element, I go cryo. You don't need cryo. You can do lightning. You can do fire. It might even be better to do fire and then get a fire class item that increases your fire damage per enemy that you hit. But I think that, I don't know, it's kind of hard to tell. I haven't really messed with that. Cryo is ultimately just always going to be really good. Then I have a Twisted Delusion again to apply soaked, and then a Masterwork Hambo literally just to pull it out. Wrong button to pull it out, and then just get my spell weaving stacks. The Goblin Pickaxe here is going to be really good just for the extra action skill cooldown rate and spell cooldown whenever we pick up some gold. My cat needs some food, and now he's hanging out with me. So continuing on, for the spell, you want a Buffmeister. The Buffmeister is actually incredibly important here. You want it to have Zap because it's going to give you 80% extra spell damage, but Pew is also pretty good because this will give you additional fire rate and reload speed. Kitty's very mad. I think he can tell when I go to make a video because he runs away. Anyway, having the Buffmeister is really important because it's going to give you a whole bunch of extra damage. Like I mentioned earlier, you could just use a different spell like, I don't know, Concentrated Barrage or something else if you want to. But of course, that's not going to scale your pixie damage up. And obviously, that is our goal here. Having a Buffmeister with 2 charges is ultimately really good, but it is incredibly, incredibly rare. For the neck piece, there's like 2 options here. There's either you can get a third. My neck piece is actually like insane. It's the only primordial piece that I have so far. You can either have a neck piece that is a Frenzied Wrath, which is really good for mobbing. So whenever the Fate Maker or companion kills an enemy, it's going to increase your damage by 20%, giving you to 100% extra damage, but it's not really going to help you all that much for bosses. Whereas the third isn't really going to give you much damage for bosses, but it will reduce your action skill cooldown a little bit because you'll pop your spells a lot, and you're getting your spell cooldown back all the time with Sever the Thread. So being able to reduce the cooldown of your From the Shadows further by using a third is fairly good. That's a pretty good option. I don't believe that the neck that when the companion deals a crit is actually going to work with pixies, but I'm not 100% sure on that, so don't quote me. And of course, you would ideally have frost damage or whatever element you're using, plus a spell shot power. In terms of your ward, I always use a Curse Wit for getting as much damage as humanly possible. But if you want to use something else for more survivability, like maybe a body rune with companion damage or something, that would be pretty good. You certainly do not need the extra damage with this build. I just like to do it because I want to do as much as humanly possible, but there's definitely better survivability options out there. In terms of the ring, you either want gun damage or spell damage. I think spell damage is actually optimal here because that will convert into even more gun damage as well as benefiting your pixies by default. Not 100% sure if gun damage is a little bit better. Like I said, it's kind of hard to test things because of double knot, etc. how it works. In terms of what you want it to roll, so you want it to be a mood ring because it's going to double the effectiveness. And ideally, I can't really tell spell crit damage works. In theory, it should work with pixies, but it's kind of hard to tell. Ideally, you just want action skill cooldown rate, though. Getting 2 of these, this is 50% with just 1 ring, and you can get 2 of them, right? Because I just duped this one. You have 100% action skill cooldown rate, which is absolutely ridiculous, and you get your From the Shadows back insanely quickly. That's pretty much it for the gear. Talking about enchants. So on the Buffmeister, I just have while action skills active, increase frost damage by 50%. The 50% is like actually crazy good, massive amount of damage, but this is always going to be active as well because we're pretty much doing all of our damage when we're in our From the Shadows window, so that's really good. For the ward, there's actually 2 options. So I like to have on action skill start increase spell damage for just more consistency. But if you want a more survivability oriented option, you could get when health is below 50% regenerate max health, and you get a 30% global damage modifier, which is also really good. This is probably best for the damage option when you're below that health threshold. The problem is that you're not going to be below it all that often. So for raid bosses, etc., I'd rather just go with the increased spell damage. On the pickaxe here, I just have, this is the same one that I've been using forever. Action skill start, increase elemental damage, which is really good. And then on all my weapons, I have on action skill start, increase damage dealt. You could alternatively get on action skill start, increase gun damage. That would also be a pretty good option. I can't tell if that's better than the spell damage. You could also get on spell cast, increase frost damage, or on spell cast, increase global damage by 15%. All of those are very good options. Now I'm just going to show you guys some gameplay. Alright, as you can see, we are on intense difficulty. I'm just going to do the extended feature run because I know where all the runes are, so I can guarantee get the raid bosses, but obviously I'm not going to show you guys the 20-minute long run. I'll just show you the first couple floors just so you can see how good the build is. The thing about Double Knot is that when you're not in From the Shadows, it's not going to do insane damage, but whenever you are in From the Shadows, everything is going to get pretty much one-shotted. You're not going to see the absolutely insane, like, 9 millions or whatever while we're fighting these guys, because they're going to die instantaneously, right? So it's not going to show all the extra damage that's actually being procced from the Double Knots and stuff. It's kind of just going to show the, like, immediate hit, which is a little bit weird, but, I mean, if you walk up to Parasite and shoot one bullet, you're going to do 9 million or 4 million or whatever in multiple different hits, so I'm going to go with Searing Tether here, because the other one reduces our damage. People were complaining about me getting buffs from the Butt Stallion or whatever, so I'll try to not get buffs. But it doesn't really make all that much of a difference, but I'll just not get buffs, I guess. Yeah, you kind of just throw pixies around, and you just do ridiculous stuff. I don't know, there's not a whole lot going on in terms of the build. I'm sure you guys are pretty... I can't imagine how many comments there are already. Oh my god, another pixie build. Oh my god, dude, stop making builds with only pixies. Look, it's not my fault that it's the best, okay? I don't make the rules. I just upload what is the best, okay? It's not... If it was up to me, this wouldn't be what's happening. I'll show you guys one more floor, and then I'll probably just cut to the bosses, because it's not particularly interesting to see me throw around the pixies. In terms of what is better, the shotgun or the crossbow, I think that the crossbow is better. It seems to shoot a lot faster, and the damage just seems to be a little bit higher. Also, the shotgun reload speed is really, really slow, which I'm not a big fan of. I'd probably recommend not popping your From the Shadows immediately also on these obelisks, because now I'm not going to have it for the boss. But he dies pretty quickly regardless, which is kind of insane because we're barely even getting any benefit from Double Knot there. But yeah, if you're worried about like ammo economy, you can run around with the shotgun first, and then you can start to use the pistol on bosses, but it doesn't really make all that much of a difference. I'm going to keep playing, and I'm just going to cut to whenever we're at the raid bosses, because, I don't know, it's probably pretty boring to just watch this, and I imagine the majority of you guys are here for the raid bosses. I guess I can do this floor just to show you that we can kind of like zoom around. Not much going on. You just throw stuff, and you just kill stuff, and yeah, very, very fun. Sever the Thread doesn't seem to proc as much as I would like it to. It seems kind of inconsistent when it does decide to proc and doesn't. Don't really know what that's all about, but it doesn't really matter all that much. I'm just going to do the runes, and I'll see you guys at the bosses. Alright, we're at the first boss. Figure I'll just show you guys this. My ammo has not been ideal. Figure I'll just show you guys this boss kill, because it's kind of funny. So, pop that, and goodbye, sir. Literally 2 hit. Literally 2 hits, and he's just dead. And then we can just pop him, and they'll just kill him again. Look at all the damage, man. It's just so stupid. Alright, we're finally at Drill. I kind of already showed this in the intro clip, but I guess this is a little bit different because I'm here again. I don't know. I guess I'll just show you guys the first part of it, and then I'll just cut to the raid bosses because it's kind of boring. But I guess we can see damage numbers again. Oh, we're doing 5 million, 6 million now. I changed a few things since I did it the first time. And then my From the Shadows went away, so I was doing about 1 million. That is insane, dude. Alright, Drill Down. This is actually great for the raid bosses because I actually have Cursed Wit active, which I have not fought them yet with Cursed Wit active, so really, really excited to see the damage here. Don't have anything crazy going on. Did I show that it's on Intense? I don't know if I showed that it's on Intense yet, but we're on Intense. Ooh, I'm nervous. I'm nervous, dude. I don't want to mess it up. I don't want to mess it up. I'm going to use the pistol the entire time. Oh, I mean, the bunny's going to get absolutely annihilated. The bunny has no chance. Bunny has no chance. Goodbye, bunny. Sorry. Sorry about that, bud. Oh my god. That was literally like a one-shot. He literally died in like half of a second. Dude, what was that? What was that? Cursed Wit Gaming. Cursed Wit Gaming. Okay, here I have to wait. I have to wait a second for my From the Shadows to be back up. Alright, we popped that. Oh, this is the wrong weapon. It's fine. It's fine. Wrong weapon. We'll use the... Okay, it doesn't matter, I guess. The shotgun's still really good. The shotgun's still really good. I'm not going to complain about it. This guy... Oh, this isn't going to be as good because my From the Shadows isn't active yet. So I think my pixies are going to start shooting at the ads. Maybe I'll pre-throw. I'll pre-throw so they kill the ads. I'll apply soaked. Pop that. Alright, and we'll throw them. That's fine. Yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that. 6 million hits, by the way, if you can see that. I really wish I could cancel my From the Shadows so that I could get it back, so that it's active like right when I need it to be active here. Because as you can see, I'm going to wait for it to be on cooldown, and I might not kill Tina as fast as I want. Oh, I think we'll get it. I think we'll get it. So we apply soak to her. Yeah, this is good timing. This is good timing. Apply soak, throw him out. Goodbye, Tina. Oh my god. That is the fastest I've ever killed her. That... Wow. Alright, well, that's the build, guys. That's the build, guys. Thanks for watching. I could not imagine how much damage. You could probably do 10 million per hit if you had, like, primordial gear and you were smarter than me. You could figure out how to optimize it, but if anyone tries to tell you there's a build that's better than this, like, I'm not trying to be cocky and say, oh, it's my build. Like, this is pretty simple to come up with. If anyone tries to tell you that something's better than this, ask them what they're... Ask them, because I want some of that. Because you got to be crazy. Alright, thank you guys for watching. Drop a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe. I'll see you guys later. Share it with your friends. I want this video to do well, because this is genuinely the best in the game. Like, this is crazy.